Mr. Speaker, I think if there's at least one thing I agree with the previous speaker on this evening, and that is the importance of education. He's absolutely right. He's Pacific, I'm Māori, and we come from a tradition where we have not gained the best out of the education system in the past, and also from families who valued education. That's hugely important, but that's also why it's a great shame that he's joined a party which, when they went out of government in 2008, 1 in 5 Maori were leaving school without literacy and numeracy. Over 50% of Māori boys were leaving school without level 1 NCEA. That's after 9 years of a Labour government. So, yes, I can identify with the previous speaker, absolutely. He's Polynesian, I'm Polynesian. Our families put a great store on education, but he's joined a party which put nothing, absolutely nothing, into the education of young Pacific and Māori, because if they had, we wouldn't have inherited the results that they bequeathed to us in 2008. And when I say that, they did that, it's like they committed a crime, actually. They committed a crime because they ran surpluses and they were in a position to invest more in the education of young Pacific and Māori, and they did not. It's no wonder that when the recession came 2 years ago, young Māori and Pacific have been hard hit, absolutely, by the loss of jobs, by the inability to get into jobs. Where were those young Māori and Pacific in the 9 years previously, coming through the school system? They were coming through a school system which Labour was in charge of, and which Labour refused to use surpluses to build the knowledge, the learning and the skills of young Pacific and Māori children. So we have a plan. It's important to have a plan, absolutely, because our country can do so much better, and it will do so much better in the plan that John Key, leader, Prime Minister, unveiled last week, and to which he presented to this House earlier in the week. The plan is actually, it's not rocket science, and that's why, no, it's easy to understand, and I'll tell you why it's easy to understand, because daily thousands of New Zealand families have to manage their household budgets. That's what they have to do. And in the same way, this government will grow our economy, manage our economy, so that we can get the best out of it for those young Pacific and Māori children who missed out. They're youngsters now, absolutely missed out when that Members' Party was in power. So the plan is this, okay? You can't spend what you don't earn, okay? You can't spend what you don't earn. You can't live off the borrowings of others. You can't live off the borrowings of others. You can't live off the borrowings of others. You have to pay your way in the world. You have to pay your way in the world. That's what households have to do, and that's what we as a country, that's what we have to do. And when you go round, interestingly, up at Waitangi, where you would expect Māori to be saying, well, actually, Georgina, you know, what you guys doing? Many of them understand the plan that we've outlined, okay? You must save. We're going to build savings. We're going to boost investment. You're going to boost your exports. The other thing that I found interesting, the way the previous member talked about jobs. He says there's no jobs. It's like you just grab jobs out of the air. You actually have to rebalance your economy to make sure you get permanent jobs, that businesses will invest in jobs. So to do that, you have to support businesses. You have to support businesses, okay? You don't load them up with red tape and regulation. We've cleared a lot of that. You don't get jobs by creating a bloated public service. And that's what that party did in government. Created a bloated we won't cut anything. We won't cut anything. We will make sure, and we haven't, things that return value for money to taxpayers. There will be no cuts where we can see that frontline services are hugely important to New Zealanders. They deserve to have services where value is being extracted, not where, as the previous government did, where you just willy-nilly grow services, grow the public sector, create jobs, and have New Zealanders living on a whim. Have New Zealanders living on an idea that they're doing well when actually the country was going down. All right, that's 9 years of a Labor government. So basically you build a stronger economy. You build the conditions that will get growth in the economy, something that that party doesn't know anything about. And without growth, you can't get jobs. But there you are. New Zealanders are understanding what we're doing, okay? We're going to encourage and build savings. We're going to only spend what we earn. Yeah, that member there can wave her head because she doesn't understand the basics. So, and we're going to build the skills and the knowledge of our youngsters. Build the skills by investing in education. You heard the Minister of Education previously. Absolutely building skills and knowledge of young people, young New Zealanders. They are our future. Actually, Chris Farfoy, the member, he knows that within 25 years, 1 out of every second child baby born in New Zealand will either be Māori or New Zealand. Okay, Māori or Pacific. That's why we've invested 91 million, nearly 100 million, to specially make sure that young Māori and Pacific children, that their participation in early childhood education, that we increase that. They are the future workforce of New Zealand. And unless you're going to see them have a life that's wasted, then you have to invest in their future. That's what we're doing. That's what we've done. We've put more money into early childhood education, and anybody who says that we don't care about a good start for young children, they need their head read, because that is so untrue. And no matter how many times those members say this has been cut and that has been cut, it is not true. It is not true. All right? I'm looking at those who are wanting their Pacific and Māori children to have a decent start in life. And yes, you can go out to some of the church-based ECE centres. They know exactly the importance of it, and we're going to support them. We're going to build on what's happening in that sector. National standards. The odd teacher says, what are you going to do? Why are you forcing these national standards on us? And I say, what's the composition of Māori children in your school? Okay, that's what I say to them. And I say, and how are they doing? Would you say they're succeeding? And they can't tell me that they are. And I said, well, our national standards will make sure that children don't leave school without literacy, numeracy, the learning they need to come out of college with qualifications and to go on to tertiary education. There is a plan. It's a very simple plan, but it's a very important plan. You can't spend what you don't earn. We must encourage savings. We will build savings. We encourage investment. We will build our assets to those assets that actually grow the economy. That's what we're doing. Can I just say, Mr. Speaker, my 2 years as Pacific Minister, I've been hugely impressed by the willingness and the ability to understand, the understanding of parents, mums and dads, that they so want to work with our government to make sure that their children do well. Okay? When 60,000 children start school, and unless we do something pretty determined, 12,000 of them will leave school without literacy and numeracy, then those are the children we're aiming for. And we're doing that right throughout all sectors, through education, through health, in the justice system, our drivers of crime, okay, to ensure that we stop the flow of youngsters into the courts. As Minister for Courts, it's of huge interest to me. And we're growing initiatives that will make sure that we cut those numbers of youngsters who enter the court system and cut those numbers who end up in prison. So we've got a lot that we're doing. We've got more to do. the potential for New Zealand is huge, and we can only realise that potential.
Sorry to interrupt the honourable member. Her time has expired.